Where do you live?
Ogden, Utah.
Okay. You live in the United States?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have running water?
Yes.
You have electricity?
Mm-hmm.
You have food in the fridge?
Yeah.
Okay, you got nothing to be depressed about. There's children right now that don't even have clothes, that don't have food, that don't have anything. Only in the West do we have this notion that, oh man, it's so tough. Oh my God, I'm sad. I don't know how I feel. The problem is this. You're looking at what you don't have instead of looking at what you do have.
Yes.
And you're making excuses for your inadequacies. Okay? All I hear is wah, 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 fucking wah, bro. And the thing is that you've gotten away with doing this for your entire adult life because no one's told you the truth.
The stigma surrounding depression and mental health in general is terrible. This whole idea that depression is a thing of the West is a flat out lie. Let me tell you guys, man. Depression exists in third world countries and in abundance as well. Sometimes it's circumstantial due to other things, but even for the wealthy, they're not always doing great.
I can attest.
I just grow a bit tired of hearing folks talk about depression or mental health when they have no knowledge about it, nor are they licensed to really talk about it. I for the life of me, don't understand why people would go to YouTubers, even us. People come into our lives sometimes and like, bro, I'm hearing voices. And I'm like, nigga, go see a shrink. Go see a doctor.
Yeah,
The fresh and fit attitude is like, you're depressed because you're not grateful, but that's not necessarily true. Being grateful is almost impossible to do because it's like, what am I grateful for? I don't even find meaning in my life anymore.
If you never had depression, you will not know exactly what depression is. For them to be saying that just already proves that they've never been like depressed before.
Nigga, go see a shrink. Go see a doctor. I'm not qualified. And the people's understanding of depression isn't there. It's not because you felt pain that you understand what it's like to feel chronic pain every day. You don't. You don't know what it's like to have a condition like that. It's not because you've been depressed that you understand depression or chronic depression, right? Or clinical depression. You don't understand it necessarily. There's people who legitimately have mental imbalances. There's people whose wires are crossed. There's people whose depression, maybe it's circumstantial. There's some people who, for whatever reason, it's just there. And if you can't understand it, for you to sit there, anybody, and say, oh, this is a thing in the West, or you're not depressed, you don't know. This idea that depression is inherently linked to what you have and what you don't have, you don't know what you're talking about. Depression is complicated. And people who have everything in life sometimes are depressed, and people who have nothing in life are sometimes depressed. There's such a negative stigma surrounding mental health and these kinds of things, right?
Especially
the whole tough it up, man up, all this other stuff. It's like, guys, sometimes you need to go seek help. Yeah. You can work out as much as you want. Sometimes you need to see a doctor. We especially from our communities, right?
No,
the whole reason why people think that a lot of these mental health issues are just a Western thing is because in our countries, we don't even acknowledge any of these things. We just say they're crazy or we ignore it.
Yeah, and the thing that
right?
happened...
I'm telling you this right now. When I was living in Ethiopia, the amount of mental health issues I saw from people in the streets, right? Because these people just get abandoned. And they're homeless. No, some of them are actually just, they have issues.
And the thing that happened is that in these countries, we say it's a thing of the West, it's a thing of the West. No, it's not. It's not, and... Yeah, but we don't hear about it. Yeah, because we're not diagnosed and we're not helping them. We just leave them be. And not only that, that's one of the reasons why living expectancy is far less in those countries. A big part of it is because of that. Because a lot of things are not diagnosed and they just keep on going. You know what I mean? Oh, you know who you're causing? Because it's just a little bit different. They don't talk about shit like that ever.
When it comes to gratitude, it can be looked in different perspectives. I'm grateful to be in the West. I have opportunities to seek help.
Just because it's more talked about in the West doesn't mean that it only exists in the West. It probably exists as much in poorer nations. It's just that in those poor nations, they don't have the luxury of actually dealing with that. A lot of people who are poor in the West too, they don't want to deal with it either because they think that their depression is linked to their like financial circumstance. Oh, I'm depressed because like I don't have money. Once I get money, then I'll be happy. But that's not necessarily true. If you move you from Section 8 housing into a mansion, you're still going to be depressed. You're still going to be the same person in terms of your own inner state.
It's not just as simple as, oh, I have money, I have cars, I have this and that. No. It's deep, way deeper than that, man.
You just gotta be resourceful. It doesn't matter like where you're at right now. Just know that there's always a possibility of success. So pretty much like you gotta wake up feeling like John Wick. No matter where you're at, just pick up something and make that useful.
You know what I mean? So always a little bit. It's either a bad spirit. It's either because the person fell in his head, or he just went like that, or it was sorcery. Often the things that happens, and they don't link it to something that is bigger, and it's not diagnosed.
Some people with depression, their brains are literally different. They can look at it on a CAT scan, whatever it is that they use, and they can see the differences in their brain reaction. You guys have to understand, it's not something you do with self-help. It's not something you undo with YouTube. For some of you, you've gone through a depressing period and you came out of it. For some people, depression is their whole lives, from when they are a child to when they are going to die. It never ends. You know, someone said this. They said, depression is like when your brain wants to die, but your body wants to live. Guys, you may never understand that. Even though you may have struggled, even though your circumstances in life may be far worse, your brain just may be built differently.
You could say there are different societal influences and stuff, but I say more of it is attributed to hormones. Because, my example, my mom, she's gone through different things like postpartum depression, and you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not something that it's just society. People just think that, oh, you just go to the gym as a man and stop beating your meat all the time and you'll be fine.
Semen retention does help a lot.
Yeah, it does help. Oh, yeah, 100%.
So like if you do semen retention, like you're more inclined to kind of do other self-help things, which will ultimately increase your quality of life.
Yeah, and even with semen retention, it's not like a one trick like solves everything.
Yeah.
Deal, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some YouTube channels, they treat it like everything's gonna change in your life. Like, nah, like it'll improve your mood, especially if you've never done it before, and then it'll get you out of like a toxic habit. But I mean, after a certain point, you know, things get back to normal a little bit.
There's so much more that goes into it.
So, on the outside, the reason why I don't like this is it stops people from getting the treatment that they need. The mere fact that people come to me every day and they're like, this is what I'm dealing with, this is my symptoms. Do I look like a doctor? Have I ever pretended to be one? Have I ever tried to diagnose folks and be like, you're a nurse? I try to avoid doing that or pathologizing things because I don't have the aptitudes for it. Understanding your limits is super important. So I look at you, the viewer, and I say, guys, whatever you're dealing with, you're struggling with, YouTube may have some great insight, some great information. Fantastic. But don't let anybody tell you guys what's going on in your head other than people who are actually trained for it. Okay? My final note, if you're unhappy with your life, getting women will not just inherently make you happy. Okay? There's plenty of guys out there who have the most amount of access to women and are absolutely miserable, who take their lives. Absolutely attractive people who, for whatever reason, they wake up every day and they want it to end.
For me personally, like, if I'm ever feeling down, the first thing I do is get off my phone and go be with people. I need to be with people. Just being in a scenario where I know that I can't be caught in the dark. Sounds mad deep, but if I'm caught lacking alone in the dark, so much shit goes in here, man. I don't know if y'all can relate, but like there's so much shit that you just shouldn't be in there that do go in there.
Being around people kind of gives you a reason to not say the worst things in your head. You know what I mean? If you're alone by yourself, you would say the most like harmful things. I had my fair share of negative thoughts. The thought came into my head like, if I were to die right now, like, would that be all? Kind of existentialness to it. And to that is being by yourself and thinking that is kind of, to me, it's a scary thing. Because I don't want to, I would feel more comfortable around people because then I know, like, nothing bad could happen since I'm in a supposed to be, like, comfortable space. But I can imagine for someone who don't have people like that.
I'm very conscious of what I'm thinking. I've been more in control of my mind to where if I'm not like consciously thinking of something, my mind is pretty much like silent. Like I try to stay silent in my own head as much as possible.
I'm just conscious of my environment and with the things that can set me up for bad thoughts.
To end. You don't just wake up one day and become suicidal. Like, there's a progression that happens there. There's circumstances. There's imbalances that get you to that point. Understand that the journey to getting a healthy, balanced life isn't a simple one, and it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Preacher's fighting some demons right now, bro.
I think that's kind of the last thing I wanted.
I'm not gonna comment on the people on the video. What I'm gonna do is this. Basically, depression is often a chemical imbalance in your brain. if I can sum it up, I summed up something that is very difficult to sum up, but it can be a chemical imbalance in your brain. It's not something that just happened in the West. You are a human being. You can have chemical imbalance in your brain. It's just that. It's as simple as that. It has nothing to do with running water. It has nothing to do with the possession that you have. You can have a whole Lamborghini sitting in your driveway, a big ass car and everything installed, and you can one off yourself. We don't know that. There's chemical imbalances and things that people are dealing with. And that's why we can't just summarize it to the things that we have. It's not that. Yes, I agree that money doesn't buy happiness, but it does make shit easier. But it doesn't mean that shit cannot happen and chemical imbalance and depression cannot happen. It's much more complex and difficult than that. It really sounds like, it makes it sound like people that are depressed, no, people that are suffering from depression are really just complaining. That's not what it is.
Like, there are attention seekers out there.
For sure, yeah.
To play the devil's advocate, like what Fresh and Fit are saying is that like there's people out there that tend to make excuses for why they're not going to the gym or their life is the way it is, and like you can kind of tell. You can tell when people are doing it for like just for attention purposes, and it's phony. For example, my ex.
But that's facts though. Like the real people who are really depressed, you don't even know they're depressed. You're like, oh, like I can't believe this person like did that. I can't believe this person killed himself. Like they seem so happy. Like those are the people that when they're alone, that's when they're really fighting the demons.
You just said it's almost like a double-edged sword because we need struggle to move forward, but too much struggle has a negative result.
That's not what it is. It's not just someone complaining. It's not, oh, he's not happy. It's deeper than that. So, yeah,
10%.
it's making,
10% of all adults suffer from it.
Yeah, it's a shortcut. It's a very big shortcut, but at the end of the day, it's not the first time that that's happened. But I'm not gonna comment on that anymore. All that to say, it's complicated. Don't sum it up to that. It's
Yeah, there's people who are ultra successful, who achieve everything in life and still feel that for whatever reason. Okay? And the way people talk about depression, a lot of stuff, is the way people used to talk about PTSD.
Oh my God, I literally have PTSD from this cockroach I saw. Bitch, no.
Not even that. It's like they didn't think it was a real thing.
No,
Or they didn't treat it like it, or they didn't address it as such.
So absolutely not. I'm gonna finish with this. I do a lot of these things on my Instagram. King Preach the Petty. I ask people to ask me questions and stuff like that. And often it's like, yo, I have this, I have that. And the first thing I do is like seek professional help. Oh, I'm not that guy. Ooh, baby, what should I do if I feel like I'm gonna kill myself? Seek professional help. I am not 411. I am not 911. I am not that guy. I am not. Go see it. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. The last thing I'm gonna say is this: no depression is equal. If you went through yours, doesn't mean that other people. It's not the same as other people.
One thing I'll say is positive.
And also,
like if you're comfortable enough to tell your favorite content creator about your personal problems, talk to your parents. Talk to someone that you're close with. Be transparent with your loved ones. They need to hear this more than the content creators.
Yeah. Well, just speaking to someone is like help enough because like a lot of times they might not even be able to help you. I mean, it might like sound like messed up, but like me personally, like when I went through my stuff, like I was talking to I talked to my mom, talked to like people I trust, but then like the whole thing was just like, oh, just like stop thinking about it, which like didn't help that much.
That's true.
Do you think you would be able to like overcome those feelings eventually, or do you think they'll just keep building?
I think you need to be taking the medication and trying to find like solutions.
Because eventually you gotta wean off. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. I feel like there's some people out there who just take the pills as like the end all be all and just like keep on moving.
Some people, bro, like they'll take like stuff like Xanax. Xanax is supposed to be like for anxiety, I believe, but they'll take it for recreational uses, and that even makes it worse. Like Xanax too, you could sell like a pill for like 20 bills. So if you have 60 pills of Xanax, you can make bank off of it.
Yeah.
So even if you're not selling, you're doing recreationally, you're just selling it. You're making money off of it and ignoring your problems while thinking money's gonna solve the problems.
Shout out to Future, number one Xanax promoter.
In his songs.
Bro, you ever heard his songs? His songs be like, "Oh, I'm so depressed. I'm so drug addicted. I need to stop." And then people just be dancing.
Saying so many deep stuff. People are just dancing.
One of my favorite songs from Future is "Hate the Real Me," and literally, well, like the title is
The
"Hate
title.
the Real Me," right? You know what the chorus is? I want to get high as I can. I want to get high as I can. I want to get high as I can. Like literally, that's the entire chorus. I want to get high as I can.
Damn.
But the song's fire though.
Not the same as other people. And also, nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. You can go through your whole life without depression. Good on you. But you're not safe. It can happen to anybody.
PTSD is a perfect example of that. You could be a well-adjusted person, go through a traumatic experience, and never be the same again.
Yep.
Can't close doors. You hear any loud noise, you freak out.
Yep.
That happens. Those are real issues.
We were working on this guy's car, and this guy was he's a veteran. So he served, I think, in the Gulf War in the 90s. If I'm not mistaken, he was in the Middle East in the 90s. And he saw some stuff there, and then he came back, and then he was a firefighter in New York when the Twin Towers collapsed. So he had PTSD from the war first because what he saw out there was bad. Then he was picking up the bodies from 9/11, and there's been almost 20 years since. But you could tell, like talking to him, he's not there. He's not present. Like you look at his eyes, like he's not. His eyes were like glazed over. The way, like if you talk to him, like he was slow to respond. Like he just didn't seem. He seemed out of it, and then he peed himself. Like he sat down and waited for us to finish the car, so he just took a nap, and he peed himself in his sleep. So I don't know if he had like some sort of nightmare or if he heard the loud noises from the shop because the shop's loud.
And it
So
reminded
if
him
that
of
might
the
have-
war or reminded him of
Yeah,
something in the Twin Towers.
he peed himself, but it was completely normal to him because like that just happens because you have PTSD, and it's crazy because PTSD only became a thing like after World War II. Like it's recent. Like people didn't care about like PTSD. Or, like,
Really?
they call it just shell shock. Like people come back from the war and they're like shell shock, but like
They didn't do much like research.
didn't do
into
much
it.
about it. Yeah. It
Yeah.
actually became like it's pretty recent, and men have been going to war for thousands of years, and we just came up with a term for like PTSD. We just acknowledged it now.
For people like fresh and fit, right? Like when they did this, right? I'm pretty sure what they were thinking in their head was like nothing can go wrong from us saying this. So when they said it, all the feedback they got back from it was negative. And it's like, oh, shoot, we really don't know much about this. Let's just humble ourselves a little bit. Maybe that's what went through their head. Maybe not. But like,
Amen.
you won't know. You don't know anything about anything until like maybe you figure it out yourself or someone corrects you. And I feel like we need to just keep like talking about things like this in order for people to really understand like, what they know and what they don't know. I don't think people should like keep their mouths shut.
It's important to have discussions. Sure, 100% correct. But to give advice that has nothing to do with depression, there's a time and place for everything. What are you doing giving advice about mental health?